Hello, welcome back to the fourth episode of Black Trust Tuesdays.
That's matters.
Black Trust Matters. That's good. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is deeding your real property into trust.
Amazing.
And so, real property is real estate, to keep it simple, as opposed to personal property, which are things like your books and jewelry, cars, a lot of things. Yes, clothes, anything that's portable, movable. Real estate is considered um, immobile. I know French is immobilier, and so that's what's immobile. And then personal property is mobile. That's just general. So um, the key to uh, having your real estate put into trust is to number one, have it in writing. So there's a theory or a doctrine called the statute of frauds. That means to prevent fraud, all real estate transactions have to be put in writing. Um, and then the additional step for safety is that it's recorded on the land record. So we're going to talk today about how to make sure your real estate is written properly into a deed into your trust, and then that deed is recorded on the land records. So, as advertised, we are going to share our screen to give you examples of a couple of deeds that are on the public record. So, the first was Jeff Bezos. And let's see, he has a property in DC. So, what I'm going to do is just run this video while I talk a little bit. He bought, actually, I believe he bought three homes, definitely at least two mansions in a row in the Calorama neighborhood. And so, what this video is showing here is that the Obamas live in Calorama. And also looks like Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, her husband, have a home in DC in the Calorama neighborhood. And Jeff Bezos also purchased one of his properties was a former museum, and then the additional home that went along with that. So here we have a nice little tour. There was a show, or not a show, there was like a little blog that was called Real Stalker that used to, I mean, I thought it was a cute name, but it used to let people know like different addresses of celebrities and things like that. But I needed to be able to find the actual deeds. And so since I know Maryland and DC deed records like the back of my hand, I just Googled, okay, what's a celebrity that owns a home in DC? Um, and so I found Jeff Bezos that came up. And now that I think about it, I probably should have done the Obamas, but maybe next week. So for now, um, the um, that property came up. So I was like, okay, I know for sure that Jeff Bezos did not deed this house into his personal name. And so, and actually, I know that because there was a recent lawsuit in Florida where this guy, I think it was on Star Island, one of the, well, the richest zip code in the country. Um, maybe short of Park Avenue, but it's still pretty high price. Anyhow, so Jeff Bezos was the buyer, but it was undisclosed because he purchased in the name of a trust. And the seller of the property is suing. He believes he could have gotten more money if he knew it was Jeff Bezos. I'm like, well, that's the point of purchasing the property anonymously, so that you don't know it's Jeff Bezos, so that you don't raise your price. So anyhow, he purchases anonymously. And with that, I knew that I could look in the land records and see how the property was deeded into a trust. And sure enough, it was. Secondly, uh, okay, let me get to the deed here. Let's see. So secondly, I chose um Jeff Bezos, um, because it was DC. And I was like, okay, let me find a Maryland celebrity. And that there aren't too many. There was like, I think there's a Sugar Ray Leonard used to own a property in Maryland, which by the way, there is a Sugar Ray Leonard Drive in Palm Park, Landover, Maryland. We call it Palm Park. And so was able to find that. Um, but Mike Tyson is a little bit more uh, of a name and he had a little bit more significant of a home. And so we decided to just go ahead and include that. And sure enough, that property was held in trust as well. And we'll get to that. So we have here on the share screen, we have the deed to this property of Bezos. So let's see, here we are. It's very simple. One pager, one of one. There's a signature page on page 2, but all right, the first thing we have is the date. This deed made this 10th day of January 2020. All right, so that's the date that the deed takes in effect. By and between 2325 S Street Real Estate Trust, party of the first part, referred to as the grantor. Basically, that's the seller. Okay. And the Capital Revocable Trust, under the trust agreement dated December 16, 2019, party of the second part, referred to as the grantee. So there you have it. There is the trust that Jeff Bezos uses, at least he used for this one property. It is the Capital Revocable Trust. I find it interesting that it was deeded directly to the trust. So you do have flexibility when you're deeding to a trust. You can deed to the trust itself or to the trustee, uh, either or. And you can also include the date of the trust. I like it, but then sometimes I feel like, by the time you sell it, there could be some revisions and amendments to the trust. So, but you do have the original date of the trust there in this document. So that's optional, but that's fine. All right, so witnesseth that in consideration of $5 million. So next you have a consideration amount. So what a lot of us will be doing when we're deeding to our trust, especially the living revocable trust, it'll be that for no consideration. That would be for $0 of consideration. Um, the reason you do that, well, number one, you're not charging yourself anything to put it in trust. But the second reason would be you want to avoid county and state transfer taxes. So whenever there's an actual sale of a property, the county and city or county, city, and state will make their money. The significant portion of their revenue comes from a transfer from the seller to the buyer. But since it's for no consideration, they usually will charge it based on the sales price amount. So when it's for $0, there's no additional charge. In DC, I just thought about it. The reason why uh, it's a revocable trust, well, I think this was actually a sale. So scratch that. Actually, capital revocable trust, $5 million. So the transfer taxes will be charged on $5 million. And we might see that on page 3. I do know that he purchased more than one property. This is just one of the properties. So because it was a total of like $23 million. So this is just one of them owned by the Capital Revocable Trust. All right. So you've got the party of the first part, which is the seller, conveys into the party of the second part in fee simple. So what fee simple is just total ownership, as opposed to a life estate or leasehold interest. This is a fee simple interest. That means you own everything, the property, the home, all rights and different things that go along with fee simple ownership. Let's see, as the sole owner. So that's making it clear that the trust is the only owner of the property. The following describe land and premises. with improvements, even easements and impertinences there too. So the next part of a deed will be the legal description. So here we have lot 36, square 2518, subdivision, surveyor's office where you could find it originally recorded. Then you have the tax ID, lot 36, square 2518. Then you also, out of convenience, even though not all deeds have them, but I prefer to always have the street address just so you know uh, that the property you're referencing. So here we have 2325 S Street Northwest. Um, and then there's the clause that will reference, I call it the reference clause, because it'll reference how did the seller uh, come upon this property so that you're creating a chain of title and you could always keep following back the previous deed, the previous deed. So it says, and being the property conveyed to 2325 S Street Real Estate Trust by deed dated May 23rd, 2001, recorded in June, and they give you the document number and the land records. And then they have subject to all easements, covenants, and restrictions of record. So that means when you purchase the property that um, it includes like if you have most easements, it could be a neighbor's easement, like for a driveway or things like that. But usually it's also your utility companies will already have easements, the right to work on pipes underground and come on your property if they need to for any emergency purposes. So, and repair. The next page, this is the warranty clause, the party of the first part hereby warrants specially. So that just means if for some reason anything was left out of the deed, that the seller will agree to make any corrections to make it right. That's the warranty. They also warrant that they are the true owner of the property, as opposed to a quitclaim deed, which we hear about a lot. That's just, hey, whatever interest I might have is yours. But here the warranty deed is I do have ownership. I have the right to transfer fee simple, and I will warrant this deed and what I am saying. So um here you have the signature of the trustee of that trust. And then it was signed in front of a notary who acknowledged that. And that's it. The last page here is just the recorder. So you can see here the transfer tax was 72,500. Recordation tax was 72,500. So all of that is a percentage of $5 million for a grand total of over $145,000. Now, if this was a no consideration deed into the right type of revocable trust and the grantor became the beneficiary of is the beneficiary of the trust that you're deeding the property to, then this recordation tax and transfer tax here would be zero. And so all it would cost is $31.50 to record a deed in Washington, D.C. for no consideration. But since there was $5 million consideration, there was $145,000 in recordation fees. Okay, so let's move on to a Maryland trust of the home of Mike Tyson, the former home of Mike Tyson. So, as some may remember, uh, Iron Mike was married to a Maryland physician, pediatrician. Yes, we are sharing the screen. Okay. And so this is the home here. I think that was also estimated around $5 million. A very, very beautiful estate. There's a nice little photo edit there with the sky. And here's some of the interiors here. Very gorgeous, well-appointed home. There's the wood panel study and kitchen, closet, little deck, and so forth. Game room, workout room, basketball court. And then I think this is Watergate. So I think we're going into another property here. So that was it for that. All right, so next, the deed. So back in 97, uh, let's see, the Lorna May Corporation was the owner of the property. Let's see. And I believe this is probably right around the time of their divorce. I'm going to check. So the home was actually owned by the Lorna May Corporation, and it was deeded to Monica Turner, which is Mike Tyson's ex-wife. So it appears that this was a divorce settlement agreement. And so she became the shareholders of the corporation. She was able to deed the home to herself from the corporation to herself. Let's see when the divorce. Okay, he was married to Robin Givens to 89. Oh, Monica Turner actually married in 97. Oh, so this is when they got married. They divorced in 2003. So the year they got married, it went from Lorna May to Monica Turner as a shareholder. Let's see what the transfer taxes were on this. If they actually, I think, well, this is Montgomery County. I think they put it on the first page at the top, of course. See, they say no consideration, no title examination. So because of that, there might have been, yeah, there were no transfer taxes signed here. All right. So let's look at the elements of the deed. Um, I'm sorry, we're going to get to the trust. I just wanted to show the history back in 97. Then in 2012, it went from Monica Turner to the Monica Turner Trust. So actually, Monica Turner, trustee of the Monica T. Turner Trust, dated August 31st, 2012. So she actually deeded from herself to the trust. You've got the grantor, which was her, the owner, and then you've got the grantee, the trust. So the next clause, very similar to the DC Jeff Bezos deed, witnesses that in consideration, but here it's $0. Um, you have from the grantor to the grantee, all the improvements, easements, and pertinences, and all of those things. Then you have the legal description here, lot 4, the greens, you got the subdivision, where it came, what uh, book it's recorded in. Then you got the improvements, you got the property address, subject to the covenants and restrictions of record. Um, and then you've got that reference clause I mentioned, being the same property conveyed to the grantor December 4th, 1997, and then where it's recorded. So, and it only cost here $60 to record this deed. Whereas, like Jeff Bezos, if there was any consideration, then it would have been for um, hundreds of thousands of dollars, over $100,000 in recordation fees. So here she is here. She signed it as the grantor, and then also as the grantee, she accepted the deed, which that's a whole nother topic. Because a lot of times the quote unquote buyer does not sign the deed, but here it was accepted, and that is that. So, and then finally, um, let's see, this was the deed from 95 when the home was actually sold to the Lorna May Corporation. And so it is very possible that she just already owned this home prior to the marriage. Um, but the final deed, here we are. This is when she sold the deed. So the way it was sold, Monica T. Turner, trustee of the Monica T. Turner Trust, an unrecorded trust agreement. So see, it's unrecorded. So it's like LLC and all, it's not registered. It was private, unrecorded trust agreement, but the title company looked at it, looked legitimate, and they moved forward. They also mentioned, even though it was dated August 31st, 2012, it says as amended and restated on October 29th, 2018, and as may be further amended. So that is the description of the owner, the sole owner party of the first part. It went to this husband and wife party of the second part. And then we've got here, they did the legal description is attached to Schedule A. Other than that, everything else is pretty much the same. Here she signed it as trustee to sell the property, was signed in front of a notary, and that's it. And so what you all can do is you can go to your local real estate attorney or even better title company because they usually have attorneys or paralegals on site that will just draft the deed. They know they do this all the time. So they'll just charge a fee, hopefully no more than a couple $100 just to draft the deed, record the deed for you. It should be relatively simple. Um, so as you can see, there's different ways to deed to a trust. You can deed it to the trust name. You can deed it to the trustee on behalf of the trust, or you can just deed it to the trustee only. That's three ways to deed to a trust. But the key is it needs to be in writing via deed, and it needs to be recorded in the land records. And then it's up to you to, well, you definitely want to do no consideration. Your jurisdiction should charge no transfer taxes on that because it's not really changing hands. But one of the warnings is, which we'll get to a little later, but the irrevocable trust is subject to uh, potential transfer taxes if your jurisdiction digs deep enough. Like DC wants to see a copy of the trust, and they say the only way you can avoid transfer taxes is if it's a revocable trust and the current owners are the beneficiaries of the trust. That's it. Um, so other jurisdictions, such as Maryland and other states, do not look that deep. They just see it's no consideration, it's to a trust, fine, they stamp off on it. DC is probably one of the few places, and maybe New York or LA, I'm not sure, but that's where a lot of big money transactions happen. That's where a lot of trust transactions happen. So it's possible that they also look deeper into it, but I'm only familiar with DC. But definitely check with your county clerk, check with the local title company, and sometimes don't take no for an answer because some people just don't know, or some people are just so by the book that they just say, well, this is what you're doing, this is what we're going to report. Maybe you just try to record the deed and see what happens. Um, because if you need the deed to an irrevocable trust, there are certain benefits for that. It just depends on your risk level and where you are right now in your life. So what we're going to do is we're going to open it up for questions if anyone has any questions. Thank you.